That's when the problems start. That's when you start burning a court every
Hello, Team Zimbabwe, Mamukasi Masquera say, and a very good evening to you, Okma TV man, Enyika, Kwamungadei Muri, and I'm back so that we talk about important matters. Wopo Uchingono met with the visiting Commonwealth team, and he really represented us, and he raised very pertinent issues and very important issues. But let us take a look first on what ZANU PF said. This is Gondai Mutongi, a pro Mnangagwa person. He says, Wopo doing what he knows best, demonizing Zimbabwe. The current legal statutes are too lenient. We need a law that severely deals with nation bashers and hate mongers like Wopo. Patriotic Act now. This is what a ZANU PF person is saying. Let us get to what the D-Hope say so that you get to understand if ZANU PF is panicking or not. That is what is very important. So I'm going to search Opo Chingono's account so that you get to know kuti zviri kumbonzi chii panapa naDaddy Hope, because that is what is very important. We need to check what he really said about his presentation at the Commonwealth. Then you compare it with what ZANU PF person said, which I brought earlier. So this is what the Hopo Chingono said. He said that today I was invited to meet with Commonwealth SEC visiting teams to Zimbabwe, led by Professor Louis Franceschi. And I started by telling them what my life was that my life was turned around through a 2-year Commonwealth visa that allowed me and many others to work in Britain. That is the introduction from the Hope. Okay, so I added that this is one of many Commonwealth benefits to ordinary Zimbabweans that were denied to them when ZANU PF petulantly and arbitrarily pulled the country out of the Commonwealth simply because it didn't want to adhere to its constitutional prescriptions of the rule of law. So what is important at this moment is to understand that Zimbabwe was not chased out of Commonwealth. Zimbabwe pulled out of Commonwealth on its own. President Emmerson Mnangagwa was there as the special lieutenant of President Robert Mugabe. They were together. They pulled out of the Commonwealth. They demonized the Commonwealth. And today, they are making it look like it's Wopo Chingono. So let us continue with what Wopo Chingono said. That is point number 3. He said, I explained to them that the withdrawal from the Commonwealth affected ordinary Zimbabweans the most than it affected ZANU PF, whose only main issue then and now remains a bruised ego and political propaganda if Zimbabwe was to be readmitted today or in the near future. And this is true. Why? When they pulled out of the Commonwealth, ordinary Zimbabweans who were being helped with working visas under the Commonwealth, they no longer accessed those facilities. But ZANU PF children continued to enjoy because they are connected, they are powerful, they have money, they can go to any country. They are learning in Europe, they are learning in US, they are learning in China, they are learning in Russia and everywhere. And that is a very valid point. And the ordinary citizens who were relying on those Commonwealth visas, the opportunities were cut. So that is another valid point. He went on to say, I explained that the targeted sanctions, the withdrawal from the Commonwealth was used as a crude propaganda too, and that ZANU PF has never looked at the consequences to the ordinary Zimbabweans who benefited from the things like Commonwealth, higher education scholarships, and jobs. Critical issues raised here by Daddy Hope. These are key 3 things are being raised. The issue of education scholarships, the issue of jobs. Very important things being raised here. But ZANU PF never thought about that. Why? Is because they never cared about the people, but they cared about themselves. And they continue to send their kids to those countries. Number 5, he said, I also added that based on the rule of law and abuse of institutions, things have gotten worse after Mugabe's removal, using many cases, including that of Job Sikala, Nyatsime 16, and the routine arrests and jailing of journalists for reporting and exposing corruption. Dedi Hope is a victim of ZANU PF abuse of the law. He was arrested multiple times. His cameras were seized. His home was invaded against the laws and the dictates of the country. So you can actually see that this is a valid point. Job Sikala is in prison, being denied bail. He's not a criminal, but criminals are being given bail. Henrietta Rushwaya was caught with gold at Araji International Airport. He was not caught by journalists. He was not caught by the opposition. He was caught by the state security agents. He was arrested by the state security agents. And the question is, who granted him her bail? Who gave the command for her to be granted bail like that? So you would see Kuti, the police or the state security agents will arrest somebody, another person will grant that person bail, and nothing will happen. What happens next? That is the destruction of state institutions, because somebody will begin to boast with Ndongo Sungwa but hapana zvandinoitwa. The same happened to that Gokwene Mbudzia boy. He's bragging kuti havana zvanoitwa publicly. He's doing that even in parliament. So you would see kuti that is a state where the laws broken and the institutions are broken. And I agree with the Hope. Point number 6, he said that I, however, added that there is nothing to be gained from shutting the door against Zimbabwe as a country of over 15 million in order to punish an incorrigible political party, ZANU PF, and its regime in power. I added that dialogue remains the only viable option on the table. And this point clearly shows that the Hope is not against Zimbabwe being readmitted into the Commonwealth. However, he's asking the Commonwealth to facilitate a dialogue, which is very, very important, so that everybody sits down. I believe Kuti, the conditions for Zimbabwe to be readmitted into the Commonwealth should be premised on having dialogue. Let us sit together. Let us talk over the issues which are affecting Zimbabwe. Let us set aside our differences. Let us talk through them. Then, after that, we get to the conclusion Zimbabwe is readmitted into the Commonwealth. What are the issues which we need to talk about? Let us talk about the political reforms. Then we get to the elections. We do the elections freely, fairly, and everybody accepts the results. That is what is very important at this moment in time. But ZANU PF is arrogant, and they call Hopewell a sellout for actually pointing all those things. So he went on to say, I suggested that there must be reform benchmarks to which Zimbabwe's readmission must be tied to, like the release of political prisoners and dropping of all trumped-up charges against the political opposition and government critics. This will measure ZANU PF's sincerity. And that is very important. That is key. And you have now seen the Nyatsime 14 being granted bail, which means Hopewell is a voice to reckon on. He's a very, very powerful voice in the nation of Zimbabwe, because these are the issues which he dealt with. These are the issues he spoke about last night. And today, people are granted bail, and you ask the question, what is happening? So you would see Kuti, ZANU PF itself is not sincere, and they need to be held accountable. And I believe that Commonwealth must make sure that they put ZANU PF in a tight corner and they force them onto the table to have dialogue, which will benefit the whole nation of Zimbabwe. Number 8 says, I also say that the Commonwealth should be a global family of nations with certain inalienable rights afforded to Commonwealth citizens, like the rule of law, human rights, and the right to life through working healthcare systems, if its existence is going to be meaningful at all. Right? Very powerful suggestion here and contribution. Number 1, if we are to join the Commonwealth, Zimbabwe must have certain standards in terms of healthcare, in terms of the rule of law, in terms of human rights, and the right to life. So you actually see that he raised very pertinent issues, very important issues. He addressed all these issues. You cannot be a member of Commonwealth while you are jailing your people for speaking out, for criticizing you, for doing politics, on frivolous charges. While there is no working cancer machine in the nation of Zimbabwe, that is a fact. There is none at Pararinyatwa, at UBH. There is none. All which were there are dead. So you would see, Kuti, if you go into the hospitals, no medication. People are relying on private sector. Who is running those private sector pharmacies? These are ZANU PF people. So you would wonder, Kuti, Are they sabotaging the public health systems so as to benefit from the private? You never know the motives. So very important issues raised. I went to this meeting aware that my voice is not the only mine, but that it represents millions of Zimbabweans who can't speak for themselves. As such, I made this meeting about issues instead of endlessly talking about my personal persecution. I only used it as an example. Over and above other issues discussed that will remain off the record, I said that I was not opposed to the readmission of Zimbabwe into the Commonwealth. Doing so as a recipient of Commonwealth arrangements would be no different to kicking the ladder to stop others climbing. Because Zimbabwe is better for Zimbabweans when it is held up against a certain value system and standards than being in a jungle as we have been under the current regime. A choice between ZANU PF using readmission for propaganda while its citizens benefit or staying out is a no-brainer. He went on to say there are draconian bills which are in parliament like PVO, Patriotic Act Bill, and pending electoral reforms. This should be a good starting point for Commonwealth's sake to see ZANU PF sincerity. An unconditional readmission would be catastrophic for the Commonwealth standing. And it's a very important here. PVO bill is meant to disseminate or disempower organizations like Zimbabwe Human Rights Lawyers, which are standing up for all people, including ZANU-PF supporters, including the politically persecuted people. These are organizations which are helping people. And if the PVO bill sails through, it means these organizations won't be able to represent people. The Zimbabwe Doctors for Human Rights, these organizations have been working throughout to make sure that the people are secured, the people are safe in the nation of Zimbabwe. So many organizations who are at risk at this moment in time because of the PVO bill. And that is a very, very valid point. The Patriotic Act bill. The Patriotic Act bill is not premised on dealing with corruption as the first point of concern, but it is meant to stop anybody to speak against corruption. You speak against corruption, you get arrested, you get sentenced, you are closed in the dock. So you would see, Kuti, these people, they are not sincere. These people, they are not serious. If you look at on the electoral reforms, they are not for the people. They are there for ZANU PF people and for a few beneficiaries. So very important issues here raised by the Duho. As said, I therefore hope that Zimbabwe will be readmitted into the Commonwealth and that this will help Zimbabwe as a country to have access to a market of more than 2.5 billion Commonwealth citizens. Political parties come and go, Zimbabwe will remain. This is the conclusion by Dirty Hope. And you hear ZANU PF, I showed you during the beginning of this program that ZANU PF responded to this and said, that is what they think about. They don't think about anything else. And you wonder, so this is it in Zimbabwe. This is the presentation from Dirty Hope, and it has rattled a lot of feathers within the ZANU PF camps, and things are not well for them because Varukumanya, and they are trying by all means to make sure that they persecute Dirty Hope more or they silence Dirty Hope. And he is trending today. If you look on Twitter everywhere, he is trending because he raised very pertinent issues. I urge you to actually go onto his Twitter handle and be able to read for your own and you understand. Kuti Hope vakanyatsoti representa. Honestly speaking, we were well represented. This is it, Team Zimbabwe. My name is Ronald Wekwamakusha. I made a decision to come with this because I felt it was very, very important. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Also, help us by sharing this video to as many people as possible. Also, leave a comment in the comment section. Like this video because it helps other people to see this video and have something to say. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Ronald Wekwamakusha. Let us meet in other episodes.